Mm-hmm. Shit. Yo, yo, yo. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Yo, yo, yo. Just want to make sure it's picking up the audio on here. Yo, yo, yo. Hold up. All right.
His involvement with these extraterrestrials. And during this time, I conducted investigations regarding not just the UFO phenomena, but my primary.
My God, the fucking audio. Let me see. So he's a UFO something something.
I'm Richard Doty. I was assigned as a special agent with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations at Kirtland Air Force Base. I was a counterintelligence officer at the base, and one of my jobs was to conduct counterintelligence operations at the base. And during my time there, my first few months there, I was briefed into a special access program involving the U.S. government's investigation and contacts with extraterrestrial, the visitation of these extraterrestrials to Earth, and the Air Force's involvement with these extraterrestrials. And during this time, I conducted investigations regarding not just the UFO phenomena, but my primary mission, probably 60% of my time was dealt to investigating the UFO sightings and any threats imposed by these extraterrestrials on Air Force or Air Force related property.
Right. What year did you first get read into the project?
I was read into the project in the summer of 1979.
Okay.
And the briefing was,
Damn.
it was a special access program. I had to have a special security clearance to have access to it. And I was briefed into it by an Air Force colonel from Washington who came down and briefed myself and a couple other people into this program.
And do you remember if it had a code name or a project code number?
Yeah, was the initial, how do I say this? Because there's still some classifications involved in this, I think. So it was, the code name that I was briefed into it was Yankee Black. But that was the program's briefing. It wasn't necessarily the UFO's program. It was just how it was actually a security code for an access program. Yankee White was access to the White House, and Yankee Black was the access that you would have to get into this program or right into the program.
Right. And what were you told during this briefing, and do you recall the colonel's name?
I'll leave the colonel's name out of it, but the briefing started with a history, U.S.'s involvement with this
That's what I want to know.
And it started out with a crash at Roswell. But actually, what the crash didn't actually happen in Roswell. Happened closer to Corona, New Mexico, southwest of Corona, New Mexico, and a second crash site that occurred in Magdalena or Horse Mesa, out west of Magdalena, New Mexico, which wasn't located at the same time the Roswell crash was in '47. The crash in Magdalena wasn't located until about '49.
Well, and did they share with you what they found during that investigation and recovery?
They showed us the movie. They actually showed us, I believe it was a 16mm movie on the recovery. And the narrator of the movie, it was obviously the movie was classified, highly classified. The narrator in the movie detailed when the crash occurred, approximately when the crash occurred in the latter part of June of 1947, and the recovery, showing military personnel at the recovery site, recovering the bodies at the site, and the craft that was at that site. And one live extraterrestrial was found at the site. And we were told that the extraterrestrial went to Kirtland Field, Kirtland Air Force Base at that time, and then on to Los Alamos for some time. And it didn't explain fully in the movie exactly what happened to that extraterrestrial, although it did explain that it died in I believe it was 1952. But the bodies of the extraterrestrials that were found at the scene were in a deep freeze, placed in a deep freeze, and sent to Wright-Patt Field in Dayton, Ohio.
Did they show the actual footage of the craft and bodies? And
Yes.
So what did it look like? What did they look like?
The craft was more or less an oval egg-shaped craft. It wasn't saucer-shaped. The creatures were about 4 foot. Some of the creatures were mangled, were heavily injured, and their bodies were torn apart. But 2 of the bodies were pretty much intact, and I'm not sure why. If there was an autopsy, they didn't discuss that. But the creatures were approximately 4 foot. They didn't appear to have any ears. They had an indentation for the nose, very, very big eyes. They had a really tight-fitting suit, almost looked like they were nude, but they actually had a very thin but tight-fitting suit on. The fingers had no thumbs, just four fingers, suction devices on their tips of their fingers, and
Suction cups on their fingers? What the fuck?
one of them had a head apparatus on it, maybe a helmet or some kind of an earphone or some type of device that they were communicating with the craft or with something else. And they found a number of different objects in the craft that they used, that they experimented with, and found they had a piece of, they thought was plexiglass. It was a rectangular piece of plexiglass that they kept for years before they figured out it was the energy device for the craft. And then they showed us the recovery of the craft in 1949 in Horse Mesa. And that craft, it crashed at the same time the 47 craft crashed. But because of the remoteness of that location, it wasn't detected until a rancher found it on his property in 49. And they did a recovery project on that craft, but the bodies were decayed. And there wasn't much left of the bodies, but the craft was the same type of craft that was found near Corona. It was an oval-shaped craft, but it had damage to it, just like the one at Corona did. And I think the opinion of the scientists were the two crafts crashed for some reason, which was never explained. No, I think nobody has it right. One of the things, one of the things that is quite disgusting, if you for the people who've ever been briefed in this program, is there's not much out there that's factual. The UFO community disinforms themselves. They provide people go out there and write books, and without any facts, 90% of everybody that writes these books, these authors, had never been in the military, worked for the intelligence community, never had a security clearance, and they're just relying on second, third, and fourth-hand information to write a book, and then basically poison their readers and the rest of the UFO community. And so the July craft actually it crashed in the end of June. The recovery project was into July, because it was at the end of June, and people just didn't get it right, and the UFO community didn't get it right. Now there's some people out there that have tried to present the facts, but they've been ridiculed, and so their information is not being believed. But just like the Horse Mesa crash in 49, very few people have that factual. They think it was an entirely different craft. The craft was exactly the same as the Corona craft, exactly the same. And the damages that they showed in this movie, they showed sketches of the crafts together at some location, and it appeared, if anybody with a logical mind can see, that these crafts crashed together. Why they crashed, I believe the Eben, they called this particular entity that lived in Eben. He probably explained, but I was never briefed into exactly how he explained that the two crafts crashed. I know it was a lightning storm. It was a storm in that time period when they crashed. But the two crashes have been separated by some people and then discounted by others within the UFO community. And that's what is so disgusting and troubling within the UFO community. That's why I have nothing to do with them anymore. I've tried. I've went to UFO conventions and tried to explain what the truth is, and nobody wants to hear you, because they've written a book that says it happened this way, and they're not going to listen to you, even though they really don't know the truth.
Right. Don't bother me with the facts my mind is made up.
Exactly.
I run into it all the time.
Yeah.
So did the craft, can you describe the actual craft more? Did they show enough of it to get any detail of the sense of the size?
It was about 35 foot in diameter across. I mean, 35 by I think 42 or something like that. The interior craft was it didn't have any actual levers or flight control systems that we would identify as a flight control system, or avionics that we would identify as flight avionics. Totally unknown devices in the craft, steering mechanisms. But they eventually, I think, over some time, figured it out. And it was done all by hands. the creatures would put their hands on controls, and they'd have this headset on, and this headset would somehow control or help them control the aircraft. And the avionics were very, very sophisticated avionics that it took us years, I think, to figure it out. And I was never briefed into that, so I can't talk. I don't know anything about what they figured out. But they took the crafts to Wright-Patterson, and at the time, in the late 40s, that was probably the best place to understand or try to figure out. They had the best scientists there to figure out how these crafts flew.
Did the energy device, you said kind of like plexiglass or translucent, some sort of translucent object, did you ever get read into any of the modus operandi of that, or how did they figure out how that worked?
I was not directly briefed in, but at some time in my career, I read a document in Washington that explained the U.S.'s U.S. scientists' understanding of what this was. It was an energy device that used a zero-point energy. That's what they referred it to, as zero-point energy. And it was connected in such a manner that this device could power, I mean, from a very small flashlight or a very small watch.
What is the video about? This guy's saying that he used to be a part of UFO crashes and experimental U.S. prototypes. Apparently he worked in the CIA as counterintelligence about UFOs and stuff like that.
You have an ill-favored look about you.
To a city, and the power was determined by what the demand on it was, and so each craft had one of these. The craft that crashed in Magdalena or in Horse Mesa out west had a larger energy device than the one found in Corona, and I don't think they could understand why, but it operated in the same manner.
Okay. And did they figure out how to apply that into other research projects? Did you find out if this was then studied and put into experimental U.S. prototypes? I
was never briefed in that program. I'm sure they did, but I can't talk about that because I can only talk about what I've done and what I've seen.
Exactly.
But
that's all I want.
Yeah, I was never briefed into that.
Got it. So after this briefing, was there anything else in the briefing that stood out from the colonel?
The briefing pertained to the threat posed, the threat that was imposed by extraterrestrial crafts, and then also briefed on some other alien crafts that had visited Earth. There was 4 types of crafts that they showed us, 4 types of extraterrestrials, and they never explained to us where they got the pictures of these extraterrestrials, but there were actually pictures of these weird-looking creatures that showed on the film that were extraterrestrials from some other location different from where the Ebens came from. One was looking like an insect, had huge eyes, very large head, a small body. They had 2 different appendages on their arms. They had basically 2 hands on each arm. And
what the
they
fuck?
had several joints in their legs. And they had a bubble type appendage.
What are my thoughts on him? Apparently this guy is there's a lot of people saying that this guy still does counterintelligence and that he's full of shit. So one of the biggest problems with like all these people coming out saying that they know stuff about aliens, people would say like, oh, they're saying some of the truth. They're not saying the whole truth. They're intentionally trying to say bullshit and like muddy the waters so that people that are actually trying to find out the truth, it throws them off track, or you intentionally throw in nonsense so that it can make this whole thing sound even more cuckoo than it already does. So they think that's what he's doing. Because apparently he's done some Some pretty shady shit.
in the front and a lump or something in the back. And that was one of them. And the other one was
You know how bit large those?
they were about the size of a human, average human, about five, probably between 5 foot and 6 foot tall. And the second one was a very tall, thin, very thin humanoid that had long arms.
This motherfucker's saying there's like different species of these things, which is wild. How do we not know about that? What the fuck?
Arms reached down probably to its knees or halfway between their hips and their feet. They had regular hands. Their faces were very, very thin. They were almost human looking, unless you really, really studied them, got real close to them, and then you determined they weren't human. I mean, you couldn't identify them as human beings. They didn't have any hair. They had a cat-like eyes. Their irises were different than that of a human, almost cat-like. And then there was a third creature that was I found this out later, but at the time they just showed the creature, and it looked something like the Eben, but it was bigger. It had a bigger body than but I found out later in a briefing I had in 1985 that was a genetically engineered creature that the Ebens made. And
See,
and
that
was a
sounds
briefing
wacky as
in
fuck.
85 based on an investigation that we were doing.
They felt it was genetically engineered.
They knew it was genetically engineered, and I don't know how. They didn't ever tell us how, but
Did they read you into the neural complex with integrated circuits and
no.
Were there any craft associated with these other species?
Yes, yeah.
What did those look like?
One was a cigar-shaped craft. One was, excuse me, I think it was like 60 or 70 feet long and 20 or 30 feet wide, cigar-shaped. Second one was a regular saucer shape, but it was really, really wide. It almost looked like one of those tops that the kids play with. Really, really wide. And they were puzzled. I remember in the briefing, in the initial briefing, the colonel said, we still can't figure out how this thing flies. So they pictured it, they took pictures of it, they saw it, but I don't know that they ever actually captured one. At least at that point, I didn't know. Right. And they never told us that. And then there was another craft that was very, very small. It was about the size of a Volkswagen, but it was, a saucer shape, but it was, oval shape, almost like the Eben, but a lot smaller. It was almost like it was a one-seater type of maybe an observation or a reconnaissance craft. And those are the only crafts that that they briefed us that was in the presentation.
And you saw photos of those?
Yeah, they had photos of them, actually, in the film. They showed photos in the film of these creatures, of these crafts. And the film started, you could tell that the film was an old film when it started, maybe in the 50s or early 50s or late 40s. Didn't have a date on it. But then as the briefing went on, it got more modern. The information in it became more modern, and you could see, based on what was shown in the movie, that it was the information was more current than the first part of the film was. And the pictures of these crafts that we saw in the latter part of, the crafts were in the latter part of the film, was something that I've seen since on TV on the History Channel that other people have taken, like the McMinnville craft. One of the crafts in there looked just exactly like, if you're familiar with McMinnville.
Yes.
I think that was in 51 or 50 or something, back in the 50s.
Right. Did the colonel, or during this briefing and subsequent briefing, did they ever explain to you what the perceived threat was that they were concerned about?
Yes, the threat to, number one, the first perceived threat was what were they after? What was it, a reconnaissance? Were these a reconnaissance flight? Were they going to recon before an invasion? Were they going to land and take over some particular facility for their own purpose? Were they short of minerals? Because a lot of what we were told towards the end of the film was that a lot of these crafts later on were seen over uranium mines and other mining areas. And so they're concerned, what are they after? Are they after uranium or turn into plutonium or exactly what they're after? And so our job was to investigate, and determine, was there a threat? And if there was a threat, report it up the chain of command and hope it wasn't a big threat.
It sounds like from their technologies they've gone a little bit past nuclear power, but was there any sense that the advent of all these occurrences had to do with the fact that we had developed atomic weapons? Because Roswell, of course, had the atomic bomb squadron, the only one in the world at the time, and this facility here.
It's always weird
uranium
hearing about the
mines,
UFOs being
etc.
interested into nuclear
Colonel
power.
Peterson, as you know, is one of the disclosure projects, said that every single one of our facilities had reconnaissance of, and was that discussed?
Well, they inferred it that that they were concerned because the way the Colonel put it, and I think this was some of his own feelings at the time when he talked to us later, was that we just had a drop 2 bombs, nuclear weapons on a country. We had a test of that bomb a few months earlier, or a few weeks earlier, in New Mexico, and this probably was observed by these aliens somewhere, whether they were doing reconnaissance back then or how they have figured it out. So they came here to observe and try to figure out what the heck was that. And maybe they didn't have a weapon like that, and maybe they did, and maybe they're concerned about this Earth for some particular reason, or maybe they were after those weapons. And that was a concern because security of nuclear weapons was the #1 priority of the United States. Air Force, because the Air Force had a lot of nuclear weapons. One of the primary missions for OSI was protect counterintelligence operations against the threat of nuclear weapons. And Kirtland Air Force Base had a lot of nuclear weapons. And New Mexico had, at the time, like you said, the 509th Bomb Wing at Roswell had the only nuclear capable strike force in the United States at that time.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So were there subsequent briefings, but from the 79 and 1985 ones, were there further updates during your career?
When we were investigating something, we then asked for a briefing on it because we didn't get everything. We were given enough to conduct an investigation, have some historical knowledge on what we were investigating. But then when in 81, I believe it was 1981, there was a scientist who died, an Air Force scientist who passed away, and he had an old Army footlocker full of autopsy photographs. And these autopsy photographs were of the creatures that died in the Corona crash. And so we went out to recover all this stuff. And I looked at these things, and it didn't look like humans to me. I looked at this, and these were actual, you being a doctor, you understand, autopsy photographs. And they were, still photographs of autopsies. But they had the organs out. And I had a little bit of medical knowledge, not a whole lot, but I had a little bit of medical knowledge, and looked at this, and I said, doesn't look like a heart or doesn't look like a lung. But what we found out was, and true, that these Ebens had just one organ that was made up of the heart and lungs. It was just one organ. And they had a couple different stomachs for different digestive reasons.
That's kind of what Bob Lazar was saying. He's seen an autopsy with these supposed aliens that had like a all-in-one multifunctional organ. He might have stolen that from Lazar, or he might have seen the same thing.
Reasons. And they had an organ that that would take every single bit of moisture out of whatever they ate and fed the body. So they didn't really have to drink a lot of fluids. And when I found all this stuff, I took it in, I immediately classified it. I asked for a briefing. What is this? Is this human or not? Well, on the bottom of each photograph, there was a case number and a date. And the dates were in the 40s, 47. I think there was September something of 47. And the case wasn't a case number that I recognized. So then I asked, and eventually I got a briefing by a scientist who was a medical doctor. He was from the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology in Washington, D.C. He came out, and myself and the other agents that were involved in this, he briefed us. He gave us basically anatomy 101 of an extraterrestrial. And he said, yeah, in fact, these are the autopsy photographs from Corona.
And did they have any further details that they provided them? You can, maybe the brain or any other organs?
Yeah, the brain.
Reproductive?
Yeah, the brain had I don't remember how many lobes the human brains have, but they had 11 different lobes of their brain, and they had where their spinal cord met the brain. It had two little bulbs on each side, which they could never figure out what they were. It wasn't like ours, and their eyes were very sophisticated. They had the optic nerves, but the optic nerves went into different places in the brain, almost as if the brain was operating. Their eyes were operating at different parts of the brain for some particular reason.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Very fascinating.
Were there any reproductive organs, or did they get a sense of?
They didn't find. No, I wasn't briefed on anything like that. And none of them were females. So they I think the EBA 1 told them that there were females, but there wasn't any females on any of these crafts.
They were all male?
Yeah, they were all males.
Did they have penises? Or?
Yeah, they did. They had a reproductive gland. They didn't call it a penis. They call it a reproductive gland.
Okay.
It was in the body, and I guess at the time of, it came out. That's what they figured. Their muscles were extremely fibrous. I remember that, especially the leg muscles. They weren't bulky, but they were strong. They were fibered, which I guess gave them more strength than what our muscles. They didn't have ears, but they had a canal with an organ or gland, I think they call it, a little bulb that they think was what they could hear out of. But they didn't have vocal cords like we had. The vocal cord, they didn't have any. So this another thing that was brought in the briefing was very fascinating to me. When this creature was found, he couldn't communicate other than hand signals. So when he was taken in to Los Alamos, to a medical facility at Los Alamos, and examined, of course, the physicians didn't know what they were examining. They figured out, they eventually were able to communicate through sign language. And eventually, somehow, somebody figured out how to do an operation on the vocal cord or insert something in there so it could talk. So it could make sound.
Yeah, right, buddy.
And I don't know how they did that.
Did this living ET share how they communicated with each other?
Through, I guess, well, I wasn't directly ever briefed on that, but I found out some years later that they did it telepathically.
Were there any humans that became adept at doing that with them?
Yes, there was the handler. This the Eben that lived, the Eben 1. He had an Air Force captain that was assigned to him, and the captain was a linguist, spoke I don't know how many different languages, but he was also an intelligence officer, and he was able to build a really good rapport with the Eben, and was able to communicate far more communications than anyone else could. And he actually lived with this Eben for, I think, the 3 or 4 years until it died.
Do you know the names of any of the other agencies or project code numbers or code names that were associated with this subject back in that era?
DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, was intimately involved in it. Everything that we sent up everything we sent up to OSI headquarters went to DIA.
Okay.
And there was a guy by the name of Tom Mack. Tom Mack was a project manager in DIA for this project. The projects had various names, and some of the names were just a phonetic name, like Quebec, phonetic alphabet, military phonetical alphabet. The Q, you would say if you were talking over the radio.
I love what you were watching. Yeah, this shit is interesting. He's saying a lot of wild
Quebec,
shit.
Q for Quebec. And so we would use phonetic for a particular operation.
Aliens have penises
with
and all this kind of shit.
a district, a number, one of our district numbers, and then a progressive number, we call it after that. So you might have a Q17, which District 17 was OSI.
It's not as wild as I think. I mean, there's only two options. It's either all of this shit is true, some of it's true, or none of it's true. I mean, trust me, I believe in some of it, but I do believe that there are some people out there that kind of just say wild shit so that the alien conspiracy sounds way too wacky for people to buy into. And I'm sure there are some disinformation agents that come out and say wild shit. Because some of this is pretty wacky. Some of it is.
At Kirtland, and then a progressive number for the case number. And
You had a contact?
But if you went to Pease Air Force Base, I went out to Pease.
What kind of contact did you have? Listen, I believe something's going on. I've never spoken to anyone who's claimed to have had contact. I've spoken to I don't even know if I should say it. I definitely spoke to someone who worked at Lockheed Martin in the Skunk Works. Want to let me up? Are you saying you want to join the live? Sure. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me up.
For sure, for sure. So what happened?
First off, gratitude for this opportunity to speak with you.
Oh man, I'm a nobody.
And, it's okay. You're not a nobody. Just so you know, if I'm here, you're somebody.
Nice.
Anyways, I served 20 years active duty service for the United States Army. Let me start off with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was a medic, if you can't tell by my name.
Yeah, Medic Taylor, yeah.
Yep. That's my name and title. That's what I had while I was in.
Okay.
On my 19th year of active duty service, I had contact, bro. It was
Do
wild.
you
And keep in mind, like, I came from this place where I thought it was, I thought it was like TV. I didn't really think too much of it at all, to be honest. I watched Star Trek and stuff, but not even really that much.
were
And,
you completely sober?
yeah, bro, I was on active duty.
Oh, yeah. You guys can't even. You have to have like take permission to take like a Tylenol, huh?
Yeah, bro. Like our whole body is like regulated. on active duty.
Yeah.
All right, but great. Get this. Great question. I think that should be a. You know what I mean? Like you're going the logical route, right? You're like, there's got to be some. You know what I mean? You're trying to find an explanation immediately, but like
Yeah.
relax into what I'm fucking telling you, bro.
Yeah.
Relax into what I'm telling you. First off,
So the thing with me is that I believe in all of this. I've gone down so many rabbit holes.
so you're already. This is the thing. You need to go from believing to fucking knowing. You need to like accept it. Like eat the shit. Let your cells absorb the awareness. You know what I mean? Like Doty's a fucking. Listen to Doty. This guy's a fucking intelligence officer. He's putting out really good info.
I mean, it's yeah. The thing with me is that I'm always gonna have some sort of doubt. So there are certain things that I've seen about him where it's like,
So wait. It's okay. Let's change your definition though. How about instead of you using the word doubt, use the word like a healthy skepticism.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't doubt yourself. Know yourself. But if you're going to funnel it through a lens, like, yeah, it's okay. Like, funnel it through the lens of, I would like to know this better, or I would like to examine this to get to know this better. But, you know what I mean? Put on your, if you take it from a perspective of like, hey, I want to learn and discover, rather than try to like dismiss or exclude, you're not going to get the picture. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have to like, take in all the data from every single source. And then it's whatever. You ever tried to like ask the universe? You like put it out like, all right, I'm ready for the truth. Have you ever done that?
Not really, no.
Okay, well, why don't you give it a try? Like most people usually like, I don't know, you can like find a nice spot like in your backyard or like a comfortable place and like where you can be, alone. Maybe it's by the ocean or it's in nature somewhere. Maybe it's in your upstairs bedroom, wherever you're comfortable. But you basically put yourself in a state of like gratitude. It's like gratitude / love. It's like a vibration that you're going to start putting out. Good way to do it is like, do you have like any good, like, do you have like a good family member or a parent that when you think about them, you're just like, fuck, I love this person, where they put you in a really good state because of, you know what I mean? The person or the being that they were. Do you have anybody?
Oh yeah.
Like for me, for example, I think about my grandparents or my, my family. Do you have anybody?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I have a fiance, I have a daughter.
So like think, do anything like that to raise your vibration. And then ponder your questions about the universe. Like, you know what I mean? Like ask for the truth. Like, hey, I want to know the truth. And I'm not joking. Like the universe will send you a messenger, bro, in a form that you can comprehend. And you know what I mean? In a language that you can comprehend at the level that you're ready to receive.
How did you discover all this? Like what exactly was it about your encounter?
Yeah,
with
I was doing deep research, man. Started to like I don't know, get curious about the world around me. Once you take in enough data, you start to like do exactly what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're trying to figure it out. I just got lucky, I guess you could say, and my contact, you know what I mean? Like when you make contact, have you heard any stories about people that have had contact?
Just online
Have
stories.
you watched
I've never
any of
had
those? Any of those documentaries?
some of them, yeah.
Okay, so a lot of the people that have had contact, they'll report back saying like, "Hey, we communicated, but we didn't use our mouths. We didn't use you know what I mean, our meat flaps in order to communicate. We had a telepathic communication." Well, that's a thing. When you know what I mean, like when you experience that for the first time, it's like a big aha moment. You're like, holy moly, it's for Rizzle.
Yeah.
And you start to want to develop that ability more and more and more. Once you know that, because a lot of it's like think about it like a muscle. Maybe like there's a muscle on your body that you didn't know that existed, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I can flex this thing. Holy shit! And then all you want to do is develop it. You know what I mean? You want to flex that muscle and get it stronger. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like that. You get into this curious state. You know what I mean? Well, for me, I had this whole experience. I actually made a video about the contact experience and posted it on my TikTok. If you ever wanted to watch it,
Do you mind giving me a quick summary of it?
yeah, it's like a video of me talking about my experience.
But like your experience, like how do you know what your experience is? Is what this is?
What?
Like I'm watching
What?
like I'm watching stuff about aliens and extraterrestrial stuff. How do you know that what you experience is that?
Well, you gotta watch my video. It makes perfect sense.
Like, did it give you
I
any
don't know.
knowledge about something, or
Yeah, tons. I got to hang out, played with them for quite a while.
Jesus?
Okay, and also too, get this: there are some ties to that dude that you just said, Jesus, Yeshua.
You think so?
Yeah, I know so. I asked about it because I was curious because I grew up like that was kind of like a big dude in like my family structure. They're like big followers of Jesus, and so for me, like, I mean, whatever. I grew up. I learned like even in school, I had to go to a school that was like very strict on spiritualness, and they talked a lot about Jesus. It was like a big one. It's Catholic school. And whatever you learn about it, you know, you go through going through the motion. But for me, I always was like, oh, I don't know about this whole thing. I'm curious about it. It's very interesting, but you know, this is about a guy that I never met, you know, and it was kind of weird. But when I had my experience, I did ask about him, and whatever, it was a real dude. And they consider him, they call him like an ascended master. It was
An
really cool,
ascended
too.
master?
An ascended master. Yep. It was very respected in like you know, that community.
What more did they say about Jesus? Why was he so special? Was he one of these? There's theories that the Virgin Mary, the reason why she was pregnant was because of these ET things impregnating her. That's where it starts getting a little wacky.
Yep. The ever Virgin Mary. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've seen my page, but I did
I've
run
never
across.
never been to it.
I ran across a Bob Lazar video, and he said that that's basically what he read in the documents.
Yeah, it correlates to the information that I've been given as well. So I would say, with all the data that I've been given, it's plausible. It's like highly plausible. And I like the way that you're framing it. Like you're taking in data. I think you're doing the right thing. I mean, you're taking in your data, and keep going.
Yeah, the only thing I won't do is like, I won't make huge assumptions until I know for sure. So I wouldn't be like, like what you're saying are
That's
pretty
okay.
big
I
claims.
think that's okay. Yeah, I get this. I would probably be in the same boat as you if I didn't have my experience. If I didn't get, you know what I mean? It's just that my experience is so unique and so odd. Like, but it's still at the same time, I can still walk around in reality and be like, well, it really happened to me. I don't care what the fuck you think.
Yeah.
But I'm just grateful. They're just so you know, they're very extremely peaceful. They're very loving. You know what I mean? They're like not one time while hanging out with him did I ever sense any hostility. Not once. Not one single time. So let me put that bluff at that bottom line up front. They're super chill. Very, very loving.
So how do you think this is going to end? Do you think that, well, not end, but how do you think this whole disclosure thing is going to
You mean
happen?
develop? It happens with us, bro. It happens with us. It happens at like the micro level and works its way to everywhere. It'll diffuse itself out. But as far as like you know what I mean, where everybody like, you know, like when there's a moment where everybody's like, fuck, you can't deny that. Like everybody's pointing at something, everybody's having an experience, all, you know what I mean? Then there's one of those moments where like after that happens, we walk around like, yo, you remember that? Yeah, I remember that. You know, it's like it's like a point, it's, you know, a very particular thing that happens.
Yeah, you think it's just going to be like another part of nature, like the same way we see bunnies. We're gonna look back and be like, yeah, aliens. That's kind of just a part of our universe, part of our world now.
Yeah, probably. It'll probably get this. It'll probably be like it'll start with like, you know, the where everybody's like, oh, it's a big secret, but you know, 100% of the planet already knows about it. Like we have it in our culture, it's in our movies, it's in our television, it's in our fucking lunchbox cereals. You know what I mean? It's aliens is everywhere. It's literally everywhere.
Is that what they are though?
Yeah.
Because you make it sound like a very spiritual thing. You think that they're just little
Well, it's
green
because
beings
of
from a
my
different world?
experience. My personal experience, it was very spiritual for me. I've noticed that for some people, it's not the same. For other people, it's very scary. I've heard other people's encounters, and they don't view it like I do. Like I'm like, dude, I had contact, and other people are like, bitch, I was taken. You know what I mean? They have a totally different mentality and perspective. So I think it just depends on like how a person is experiencing reality. I don't know, it just depends.
But what exactly was the experience? Was it like in your subconscious? Was it like a physical thing that you were
It's a
experiencing?
physical, dude. Yeah, it's a real thing, physical thing. Like you need to watch the video. I took it's like a 8-minute video. I put a lot of detail into it, man. There's a lot of visuals. Maybe if you want, go check it out. You know what I mean, I'll keep a message in here so you can click on my profile later.
Okay.
Check it out. I'll say like aloha.
Let me see. I'm pretty sure I can check it out right now.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Is it? Which one
Nope.
is it?
It's the third pinned one. The third one. The one with the bald
It
guy.
turned, it faced me, quite literally looked at me, and then the next thing I know, it flashed me with this light. What's up, TikTok? Okay, the more that I edit the video, the more that like some details need to be brought forward, or at least I need to tell you guys what I felt as well. So I talk about like me seeing this thing and noticing it. It let me look at it, and then it changed its orientation and then looked at me and then spoke to me, like tried to actually communicate, and it did it with light. Like it shined this light onto me. And my whole face flexed, like everything flexed. It flashed me, and you know what I mean? I didn't expect it. I wasn't expecting it to flash me. So it was unexpected. I think also too, like, you know what I mean? My eyes were probably wide open. I was probably taking in a lot of data because I had never seen that. I had never seen anything like that ever. And when you work emergency medical services, or when you're a giant gamer, like I'm a huge gamer, play a lot of video games. I've trained to take in a lot of data very quickly and react very quickly. I'm a huge first-person shooter nerd, and also for EMS too. Like we take in as much data as possible with all of our senses, so that we can have all of the proper equipment when you arrive on the scene. You know what I mean? So it's like a version of a scene size up. Like I was doing a scene size up right when I saw this thing. So when it flashed me, I was not expecting. One of the things I want to note is that I felt a connection in my heart before I even recognized or realized or even brought my awareness to what was happening. Because everything happened really, to me, it happened very quickly. And like I see this thing, and then it flashes me, and then it's like, it was all very quick. It was like, I see it, it flashes me, I have an entire experience, then I'm back, and it's over and done. It was kind of like, I want to note the feeling that I got in my heart. That was a real phenomenon. I felt it. I felt that connection. I want to note too that I didn't hear anything. That was one of the first times that when I'm seeing something in the sky that's not like a kicked ball that's flying through the air. When you see one of these things just floating, and I don't want to, you know what I mean, that word doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? It wasn't floating. It was doing something else. It wasn't flying. It wasn't floating. It wasn't hovering. It was doing something else. Some other means of propulsion or something different. I know this. I've been around tons of tech. This was something different. I've been around helicopters and planes. This was something different. And I felt it. I felt it. And you know what I mean? Like, you just know. You don't need to explain it. You just know it's different. I experienced this weird, different thing. I want to put out a couple other things too. I didn't sense any hostility from this being. Zero hostility whatsoever. Even though it flashed me, I don't think it was hostile. I don't take that in any way hostility. I liked the experience. I actually loved the experience, and I thought it was it changed my life, and that's an understatement to say that it changed my life. It made everything in my life exciting and new. I was able to see things from a new perspective, which I was very grateful for. It was like reliving everything over again and seeing things new and experiencing things new like a baby. It was so cool. When it first happened, very, very cool. Yeah, I want to put that information out there as well. Love you guys. What's up, TikTok? I've been playing with this piece of software called Whisk. It's quite amazing. I've been trying to use it as a tool to tell others my personal encounter with these UAPs. This is pretty close. This is actually pretty close. What's interesting is you can feed this data and then let it do it. So let me click this. Yeah, this is pretty close here. So let me show you this one. What's interesting is like if I was going to be accurate, it was like this. You know what I mean? Its orientation was, when I first saw it, it looked like this. You know what I mean? It was looking forward, and I'm walking, like how this character is just walking. This is kind of how it was, but this was more off to the right over here, more on this side, like right around here. And I was maybe a little bit further back. Like this thing is pretty close, which I guess is kind of accurate, I guess. Okay, so this is kind of how it was. This thing was like there, kind of looking like this. So it was facing forward, and I brought my gaze up. I was looking down at the ground, you know what I mean? And then I brought my gaze up and slightly to the right. And there was this thing. It looked like an eye. Like a futuristic metallic eye. It was it was like symmetrical, and it was cool. It looked very futuristic. Got me very excited. And at the time, I wanted to like point at it. I wanted to point at this thing, and I was going to speak out of my mouth and say, X-Files is real. Like I was going to point at this thing and be like, X-Files is real. But before I could even point at it, before I could even speak any words, it changes its orientation. Let me show you this. So to me, it was like it had changed its orientation, right? It was like not this way, like it would have turned this direction to look at me, but in this video, it's doing it in this direction. but it turned, it faced me, quite literally looked at me, and then the next thing I know, it flashed me with this light. And in this video, it shows like everything kind of fades to black, or that time passes. But before it flashed me, it had like canceled out all the frequencies around me. So this is pretty accurate, where everything kind of fades to black, but it was completely black. It was like all the other frequencies, everything that was around me faded out. And it was like when it was conveying this message to me, when it was talking to me, it was making sure that that was the message that came through. Like it was very clear. It wanted no other influences other than the message that it gave me. And yeah, this is pretty close to it. It's very similar to what I got to experience. Anyways, that happened while I was on active duty in 2023, June-ish, June of 2023, right after I had turned 40 years old. Just putting it out there. Love you guys. It turned, it
Interesting.
faced me.
What do you think, man? It's only a small little portion of it, but
Yeah, I'm curious as to what it told you, though.
yeah, it was a whole experience, man. Like right after, so like from my perspective, right, it's like getting flashed. You're like, and your whole body is flexed like as hard as you can. But imagine you just, being teleported, like, what I mean, tractor beam somewhere really quickly, dematerialized and rematerialized somewhere else. But from your but you know what I mean? But from your perspective, it just feels like you're being flashed in the face really quickly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can tell you a little bit of it. It's gonna sound really weird though. You know what I mean? Like some of the stuff is like non-linear, meaning like there's some time, like some weird hopping in time. It gets really weird, bro.
This is the place to get weird, my brother.
Well, it's kind of like that. I'm actually in the process of making a video talking about it. Because I think it's important to like talk about how it all unfolded. Like how it unfolded apparently is very important. It's more important than really like the stuff that the contents of like what happened. There are some parts that are important too, but you know what I mean? Like the flow, how it uncovered the weird synchronicities that happen in the process too. It's all, in my opinion, I think it's important. But it just takes a lot of time to tease out a lot of it's what we call a lot of minor details.
Yeah.
But I guess I can tell you, like, it's like getting flashed, and then whatever in my mind, right after it happened, I remember looking at it. I remember being flashed by it. My whole body flexed. And then like, it's just, I remember it being blank. Like all of a sudden, like all of the experiences, everything that happened, it was like blank in my mind. And then I'm back, like I'm here, I'm back on planet Earth. I'm back in my body. I'm back on the street. You know what I mean? And keep in mind, it's still daytime. It's a daytime, like we would call it a broad day encounter. And like I had to do this whole check where I'm like patting my chest, where I'm like, oh my, I'm Jared Taylor. I'm back, and you know what I mean. I'm sorry, First Class Taylor. I'm back. I'm a father. You know what I mean. I was like, I'm a father. You know, a husband. I had to like do all these weird like checks on myself again right after, and I was filled with all these different emotions. Like just a moment ago, from my perspective, 1 moment ago, I was like happily trying to point at this thing saying X Files is real, trying to get my son's attention. The next thing I know, I'm like partially looking at the ground, and I'm like partially laughing. Like I have these emotions, like I'm laughing and crying simultaneously. And like whatever, like all those emotions flood back. And all of this new information was like in my mind. Like I had all this new, what we would call awareness. You're all of a sudden now you're aware of all this stuff. And that's the other, like, that's another side effect of this is like, wait, I just know all this stuff. And a lot of people are like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just know all this stuff now. And that was another weird thing too. Another weird, whatever. Some people call it side effect. Some people call it, a superpower or super ability now. I don't know.
Yeah, why do you think that happened to you? You think it was just random, or
No, I don't
were
think
you-
about it like that. See, I don't frame it like that. It didn't happen to me. You know what I mean? I don't think like that.
what do you think happened?
Yeah, like I don't know, I don't know. To be honest, it was a unique experience. You know what I mean? Like I was studying a bunch of like the same stuff that you're studying, but I was studying at like a higher degree. Like you know what I mean? Like you ever studied esoteric material or material regarding Jesus, like the ancient scriptures of like Jesus?
Yeah, I've gone down several.
So like
rabbit
yeah,
holes.
studying that stuff and what was it? There was another one too, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean. I was studying these things like simultaneously. And I don't know, when you're just doing those things at the same time, your awareness, because I don't know, it was just a unique series. Like it was just a weird synchronistic series of events that just happened because I was just being curious and following my passion and trying to figure this stuff out. And whatever. I made this connection. It was basically amazing. And it's led me down a whole bunch of really cool synchronistic paths. Like it just keeps happening like that,
Yeah.
Well, it's fun like that when I'm being myself and having fun.
So what do you believe in? I know you said you've kind of like done your
What do I
own
know?
studying and stuff.
You mean, what do I know?
Yeah, what do you know? Enlighten me.
What I told you.
But as far as like, because you mentioned
Like
that
about
the
what?
emerald
Telepathy?
tablets and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
you believe in that?
Believe in it? It's not a state of believing, bro. It's like a state of awareness.
So in your mind, you know it to be true.
I'm aware of certain parts of it. Yeah. It's not like you have a weird framing. Like maybe you have like think about shit weird or you frame things in a certain way, but like I don't think in that weird style that you think.
Well, the way I view things is what the fuck. The way I view things is those that say they know everything know nothing. That's how I kind of view things. I'm always very wary of people that say they know. They know. Everyone seems to know the truth. But it's like, how do you know the truth? How
Seems
do you
like
know
you
that
might
that's
be
truth?
funneling that, like that's a belief structure that you've created. Just so you know, I don't share your beliefs. Like if that's the way that you live your life is with that belief structure, that's weird. Like, get this, I know you should wear a safety belt when you're driving your car. Does that make me somebody that doesn't know anything? I think that's an incorrect way of like thinking about things, bro. You know what I mean? Like I know that if you don't drink water, you're gonna, you know what I mean? You're gonna dehydrate and get sick. You know what I mean? Like I think that that's very silly mentality structure. You know, I don't think it's gonna serve you.
What I'm trying to get to the bottom of is like, you've had this experience.
Why do you want to go to the bottom? Why not see the whole thing? You know what I mean?
Well,
Why only the bottom perspective? Why not the top or omnidirectional? See it from every perspective, multidimensionally.
Let's start from the bottom though.
Okay, I like to start at the bottom.
Yeah, because
Okay.
you seem to know what you know, and I'm just trying to figure that what that is. I want to know what you know. People should
Yeah, I
know
just
what you
told you.
know.
Yeah, I just told you
What did you tell me?
that. Well, you just watched that whole video.
Yeah, but you haven't said anything about what is this? You've evaluated what you think happened to you, but like, what is this being? What is it said to you? What are some of the things that makes you believe
It's
that?
more personal. Yeah, it's more personal. It's really not. It's not for you. That part wasn't really for you. You know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody, you know, it's more personal. I'm not gonna talk to you about what we discussed or the experiences that we had. Not right now, anyways. But when I'm ready and finish this video, I'll put out this, another part of it,
How do I
another
get-
perspective.
Yeah. You feel like I'm attacking you or something?
No, it's just you know what I mean? Like it's more personal.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I know that like it doesn't make sense to you, but it's trust me, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh my god. I just fucking died.
You got cooked.
Damn.
You got cooked.
Got cooked, bro. Damn.
What other games you play?
Right now I barely started getting back into gaming and streaming and stuff, so I was a big Call of Duty player. Like from your video, I was a big
Yeah.
FPS player. Best
Like
of the
me,
best.
just like me.
Call of Duty Apex, Battlefield, all that.
Yep. All good ones.
Yeah.
I did PUBG too.
I never got into that.
You missed out. It was good.
I was the biggest.
really
Yeah,
good
my main
years.
thing was
Fun
Call
years.
of Duty.
Gotcha. I did some COD too. Quite a bit. Yeah, I got to play on the big stage for Call of Duty. I don't know if you've ever heard of their endowment program, but I was part of their very first Call of Duty endowment.
Damn.
Got to play with a whole bunch of celebrities on stage.
Like who?
Stream. Geez, who was it? Shroud, Dr. Disrespect, Summit 1G. Just a whole
What do you-
bunch of really
What do you think about
Syndicate.
what do you think about the doc?
I don't know. I haven't followed that whole scene in forever. What happened? Did something happen to the doc? Is he okay?
No, well, he's fine.
Okay.
But you know how he got banned from Twitch?
No. Oh, he got banned.
Well, this was
What
a
did he
very
do?
long time ago. He got banned from Twitch. Nobody knew why. He wouldn't say why. And then a Twitch
I
employee.
kind of remember this. Yeah, there was like some drama with. I try to avoid the drama stuff, but
Oh, I love drama.
what happened? Yeah, what was his whole thing?
Okay, so he got banned from Twitch, and he kind of just switched over to YouTube. Never explained why. Kind of just was
Was it
just
for
like,
fake content or whatever, or like cheating? Was he like using like a hacks?
no, way worse than that.
Worse than hacking?
Oh yeah.
What the fuck's worse than hacking in the gaming community?
I guess sexually
Thievery?
talking to
He was
minors.
thieving? He was what?
Yeah, that's the claim.
No.
That was the biggest thing in
real?
streaming maybe like a year or two ago. Yeah,
Ooh.
but we don't know
Yeah.
because we
Bro,
we
I try
haven't
to
seen the
get
messages.
this. I avoid that stuff, bro.
I'd love to
Well,
know about the drama.
Did he learn his lesson?
No, he doesn't. He came out with a whole twit. He came out with a twit longer, and he's like, were there messages, inappropriate messages with a minor? Yes. Did I intend on meeting up with this person? No. Apparently, they were having conversations
they
about
were
meeting up.
inappropriately talking.
Yeah, we haven't seen the messages, so we don't know. We don't know the severity of it. But he did admit to talking to a minor.
How old? How old was the kid?
I don't know. She could have
Sounds
been 16. She could have been 17. You know, different states, different legal
Minor's a
ages.
minor. We don't give a fuck. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
And I was such a fan of his,
well,
but I was like,
but
dude.
he didn't do anything. So he was talking inappropriately with a minor.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it's that bad, but still, it's just like,
That's
bro.
not that bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really not that bad. Okay. Well, whatever. You know, they got strict. You know, he's a top tier. You know, well, he was, I guess, but you know, when you're at the top, you got to be at the best standards, man. You can't be. You got to treat everybody with dignity and respect, bro.
Yeah. Can't be doing that, especially being a big streamer like that. You can't get caught up.
Yeah, you got to be the best, bro. You got to be freaking a superstar. You got to be like Captain America.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever. Well, that makes a lot of sense because, you know, they probably want a good image. They don't want people that are doing dumb shit. And keep in mind, I don't know if any of that stuff's true, but whatever.
Yeah, well, the only thing that we know
wild,
for a
bro.
fact is that he was messaging a minor. He admitted to that.
Yeah, well, I don't want to talk about that though. I don't want to talk about that. You keep talking about this. I'm done talking about that.
Bro, we got to talk about something.
Not that. Why do you want to talk? Stop talking about minors, bro. Talk about like something happy. About this game. You know, talk about the game. Talk
No,
about
this game is
aliens.
cringe.
Talk about Dodie.
Okay, let's talk about Dodie.
Okay. What about Dodie? He's young here, bro. Like this looks like an older video when he's like he's got a little bit of brown in his mustache.
Yeah, I
He's a
haven't
lot
seen
older
anything.
now, you know.
Yeah. Let me see.
He's talking to who? Dr. Greer?
Oh, how about this? What do you think of Dr. Greer?
He's been talking about aliens and UFOs for like super long time. So he's done a lot of like you know, he's done a lot of good work in the UFO community as far as like he's put out protocols which has been pretty helpful like for people, you know, that want to establish contact. That's a good starting route. You know, I mean, if you want to do a more advanced stuff, there's some more advanced stuff out there. You know, there's actually military protocols.
Yeah.
Go do those ones. You can do his ones too. His protocols are good too. To be honest, you don't really need it. You can make it up yourself. Make up your own protocols. You trust your own inner knowing when it comes to this stuff, and you'll be just fine. That's a big secret, bro. I'm trying to tell you is like you don't need to go anywhere else. Like all of it kind of is within you. All you have to do is sit there and be like, okay, if I have all the answers, what is it? You just don't judge what comes into your brain. Just roll with it. You know what I mean? And go, trust in your instincts, and trust me, it will all unfold perfectly. Think of it like a flower. A flower doesn't need to like ask somebody how to bloom. You know what I mean? It just does it.
Okay,
make
so it
sense?
says here that Richard Doty admits to disinformation.
What do you mean? He
know about
admits to
that?
disinformation.
Doty admitted he fed disinformation to Benowitz.
Oh, good. That's good that he did that. It sounds like he's coming out. You know what I mean? Telling the truth, which is great.
Who Who's admitted to coming out to the truth? Doty?
That's what you said. If you're saying that he's telling the truth, then he's telling the truth.
Doty admits to disinformation. Yeah, but once you admit to disinformation, what makes us think that any other thing that you say is going to be the truth?
You have to funnel it through your own inner knowing. You have to funnel it through your own instincts.
I mean, I feel like I have a pretty
That's
good
it,
bullshit
right there.
meter.
That's your answer. You trust your own inner knowing.
Yeah. I think he's full of shit.
Well, that's up to you then.
Yeah. I think
You know
some
what
of
I
the
mean?
things that he
if you're
says
gonna
might
funnel
be
it
good.
through that, then you're just gonna get full of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the product that you're giving yourself is full of shit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to be proven wrong, but
Why?
because I want all of this
Oh,
to be
then
real.
you
Why
want to
not?
be proven wrong. Well, then trust in this. Then trust in it and be proven wrong. You know, listen, relax into the awareness that I just told you. And then what? Then you're proven wrong. Then what? What's after that then?
No, my whole thing is, my position is, I believe some of these things to be true, but certain people come out and say bullshit, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I don't believe that. But you know, if it's true, then
I know you've
rather
said this
be-
twice, but like you're still like making it vague. It's like you're saying you know, I believe some parts, but I want to leave other parts open so I can jump off the train at any point. Like it's weird. I don't, you know what I mean? Like
Why do you think that's
parts do you
weird?
think are real and what parts do you think are not real?
I believe that there are extraterrestrials.
Or what parts do you resonate? That's a better one. What resonates with you and what parts don't resonate with you? How does that sound?
I definitely believe that there's extraterrestrials. I believe that there's a cover up. There's just too many people that come out that
Cool.
have nothing to gain from it.
Yup. Very good. Okay, so that's good data that you're putting out so far. What else?
but-
and like you believe in the extraterrestrial portion because of what data? What data did you consume to believe in that? What piece was like put you over? We're like, okay, that's enough evidence for me to whatever.
Well, still not
believe in
yet.
this.
Still not yet. I'm on the fence
Okay,
about
so you
it
don't.
still.
So now you're going back on that.
No. You're trying to play word semantics with me. What I'm telling you is I want it to be real.
I'm trying not to, by the way. I don't want to do that with you.
What I mean to say is I
So if you
want this
think I'm
all
trying
to be
do that,
true.
I'm trying
and
to be
it
clear. with you.
seems-
I don't want to do that with you.
It seems to be true. But my whole thing is, why hasn't nothing ever came out? Why isn't there an age where there's cameras
There's a
everywhere?
ton. What do you mean? Why has nothing come out? There's a ton of stuff that's come out. The evidence is overwhelming. It's staggering the amount of evidence that's out there.
Yeah, but nothing to say definitively that, yeah, this is what it is. Well, like, we still don't know what it is. There's people saying it's aliens
I
from
don't
another
agree
planet.
with you. When you say we, don't put me in that we box. I'm not in the same position as you. Don't say we.
What do you believe?
Try not to speak for anybody else except for yourself. You know what I mean? Speak for yourself on this topic. Don't say we.
Yeah, we.
Say you.
We're in this together,
You.
brother.
Well, I don't share. This is the thing. I don't share your belief structure in some of these things because I don't believe. Like I have a state of like knowing. Like, hey, I know a bunch of stuff. I know this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, my state of being is slightly different than yours.
So
You're still in the state of like trying to like say whether it's real or not.
Yeah, I won't say I know anything until I have extraterrestrial, like a fingernail or like a flashlight that's extraterrestrial or something. That's
Or when
definitive.
one of them comes up and like slaps you in the face
Yeah,
or gives you a high five.
yeah. I need that.
Well, then there you go. Then you have to. Then if that's what it's going to take, then ask for that. Have you ever asked this? I told you this. What?
Who would I
12
ask?
minutes ago. Ask the universe. Talk out there. Talk to God. Talk to whatever. All that is.
I don't think that's how that works.
That's your belief structure. Then.
Yeah.
Then that's what you've created for yourself.
Like
Okay.
one of the things that makes me like really skeptic about this Greer guy is that he says these bold claims where he can summon them and all this and that, but it's just like you can summon them, but you can't provide video evidence, photo evidence. We're just like, oh yeah, this guy's not fucking lying.
I don't think you've looked because he's actually done that already.
I've looked.
Okay, well then I guess you haven't looked hard enough because the evidence is there. He actually has done that already.
No,
And
he
keep
has.
in mind, like
If he
a
did
lot of
that, that would
people
be
have
all over
art.
the news, bro.
No, it wouldn't be because, like you said earlier, there's been a cover up.
But he has his own website. He has everything else. I'm pretty sure someone would
Yep.
pick up on that. Let's see.
Yes, a lot of people have. What do you mean? Tons of people have.
What has he
It's a
provided that
state
you've
of
seen that you were
awareness.
just like, yeah, that's an alien?
Yes, it's a state of awareness. And what you do once you become aware. Whether, you know what I mean? People can come to you, tell you right to your face, hey, it's real. And then you basically like turn around like, It's what you do with what people tell you. It's what you do with that awareness. Smiley face.
Let's see. Right now, I'm on his website and I'm at photos and videos, and this doesn't prove anything. It's a picture of, he calls it the light being, Boca Grande, Florida, 2010, and it's nothing. Then he has old pictures of what looks to be like a UFO. Seen 1,000 of those. Don't know what that is. Damn, I'm not showing it on stream, am I? I'm not. Let's see. All right, now it's on stream. You still here with me? No, I guess we left. Yeah, this isn't. Stephen Greer's like, oh, we have photos, we have videos. Okay. Let's get back to the video.
Keys Air Force Base, which is no longer there, but it's northern New York, is a SAC base, Strategic Air Command base. They had a very peculiar incident happen up there of a UFO that was flying around their nuclear weapon storage area. It actually landed, and a weapon had been taken apart. Not the warhead wasn't stolen, but somehow it was taken apart, and there wasn't anybody in this bunker to do that. So they figured, how the heck this happened? So they thought maybe it was a Russian operation or something, and so we went up there and
Yeah.
Will you mute the mic for a second?
Leo, what up, baby? Yeah, I remember you. I was just having a talk with my lady. Did he leave? He already left. But yeah. Oh, yo. This TikTok thing is fucking...
It lies.
It's lying to me. What up, baby? I just had a really interesting talk with someone who said they've had experience with aliens.
I'm cleaning, so I don't have to.
All right. Yeah. We're just playing some Crimson and watching some wacky UFO guys. That's a lie. I mean, he was getting pretty mad. Shit, I don't know. Maybe he did see some shit. I'm just skeptical by nature. I don't believe a lot of people. How you been, bro? Gucci. Life's been good. Back to streaming and shit. Yeah, did we play Call of Duty together? I feel like we did. Oh, you stopped playing COD? Hell yeah. That shit is trash. Ass, bro. Fuck Call of Duty. Call of Duty is straight shit. I played Battlefield for a while, and it was fun, but yeah, it just didn't hit like that. So now I'm playing RPG games and shit. I keep seeing people say that this is like a really good game or whatever. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just play it, watch some shit. I feel like this is like a background game. Is it good? I mean, if you like games where you can kind of just walk around and do whatever the fuck you want, then yeah. I'm not really paying attention to it because I'm reacting to like some alien videos and shit. It's pretty good though. It looks good. The game looks good. Combat's good. The story's kind of confusing, but shit, you know, not bad. People were complaining about it and shit, but I mean, I haven't had any problems with it. People are saying it was crashing or whatever. But I appreciate you coming through, bro. How long has it been? It's almost been like a year. Yeah, I stopped playing Call of Duty a while back. It's almost been like a year. Yeah, honestly, me and my girl have been making content. We have like a separate TikTok account, so we go live on there, separate YouTube or whatever. But whenever me and her have time to stream, we'll stream over there on the other account. But then I'll just like, let me get back into my account. And this account is kind of all over the place because I'd be posting bullshit. It's not really a gaming TikTok account, but when I go live, I'm gaming. I just find weird videos on Twitter or on YouTube, and I'll be like, what the fuck? And then I'll post it. It used to look different. Is that an insult, bro? Is it the hair? Or am I fucking fat? I know I gotten big. I haven't shaved. The hair? Yeah, it's fucked up right now. I'm going for the emo boy look, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna get back to the video. I paused it. I was having a long ass conversation with this guy. I want to learn more about the aliens. Let's see what this motherfucker says.
And during this briefing, during this operation, we found fingerprints, but they weren't like our fingerprints. They were very strange looking prints. Now, if remember when I told you about one of the creatures had two hands on one arm, one appendage, it appeared that something like that had gotten in there. Somehow it got in it, and nobody could figure it out because it's a very secure area. You can figure it. Nuclear weapon storage is very secure. But they had fingerprints. So now we have fingerprints, and that was the first time that we, as a government, actually got extraterrestrial fingerprints.
Do you remember what year that was?
That was in 84. That was 1984. Yeah, it was winter times. I don't remember if it was late winter, early winter because it was snow on the ground. Of course, upstate New York, it's pretty bad. But I thought that was fascinating. But we never could figure out anything other than that it got in, and it took fingerprints. Now there were many cases of UFOs spotted around nuclear weapons facility, launch control facilities, Ellsworth Air Force Base, Maelstrom Air Force Base, and then SAC bases that had nuclear weapons. Wordsmith, yes, Strategic Air Command bases. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colonel Dietrichson said virtually every facility.
Yeah.
had been.
Yeah, I read a report where almost virtually everything was, but some of them were more intrusive than just the security forces seeing something flying around compared to creatures found inside an area. And we had that at Kirtland in 1980, where security police at Manzano complex, which was where the nuclear weapons were stored, saw these strange lights out of Coyote Canyon, which was east of the complex, the nuclear weapons complex, and something landed. And so I conducted that investigation, which was extensive investigation, which led into the Paul Benowitz incident.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Turtle.
What actually happened with that?
Paul Benowitz, or the
Well, both.
Okay.
I've seen some of the documents about the Coyote Canyon event and also an earlier one, or around that time, where one of your security officers saw a disc
right.
out on the.
Actually, one of the security officers from Sandia Laboratories, they had their own security, was checking. It was driving around on a graveyard shift sometime after 2 o'clock in the morning, and saw a craft land at a bunker. But the bunker didn't have anything in it, but the craft landed. And when it landed, all the electronics in that vehicle shut off. His engine shut off, his portable radio stopped transmitting, his portable radio in the vehicle stopped. For as long as that craft was on the ground. When the craft took off, everything came back on. And so I investigated that. All we found was that something landed there.
Was it on base radar?
No radar. I checked it. The first thing I did was checked with FAA. And we had also at Kirtland, we had at that time it was pretty a secretive unit that scanned every single frequency that could possibly be generated in and around the base, radio frequencies. And so I went to them and I said, hey, did you guys pick up any strange frequencies on this particular time frame? Nope. I said, okay, I went to FAA, let me see your printouts for this night. Nothing. So then I thought, well, are these guys making this up or what? Well, then the security police inside Manzano, I interviewed them separately, and they told me the exact same story. So I thought, it's just makes too much sense to be a fantasy or hoaxing. So we investigated, but we could never find anything regarding that craft. But shortly after that, Major Ernie Edwards, who was the commander of the 1608th Security Police Squadron, the security, Air Force security police that guarded Monsanto, came to me and said, I got a phone call from a guy by the name of Paul Benowitz. He lives right outside the base. He lives in Four Hills, which is a housing community just on the other side of the base perimeter. And he told me he's seen all sorts of strange lights around Monsanto. So I said, oh, that's strange. And so I started checking into it, and we found out that Paul Benowitz owned a business right outside the main gate of Kirtland, Thunder Scientific Laboratories. They made humidity sensors for submarines. So he had a government contract, and he had security clearance. So I went and paid him a visit, asked him about what he saw, and he started telling me all sorts of stories about what he saw and what he did and what he thinks they are. So we conducted an investigation just to make sure this guy wasn't a Russian spy. He wasn't, doing all these things. His house was literally just a few feet from the base perimeter. I mean, his backyard bucked right up to the base perimeter, and he had all this sophisticated. Now he was a physicist. He had all this sophisticated equipment on his patio, his upper bedroom patio, that was pointed towards the base, and that's what we were concerned about. So we conducted an investigation on him, not only us, but National Security Agency, because he actually tapped in, and this was classified at one time, I don't believe it is classified anymore. He was tapped in to a National Security Agency, an NSA project that was going on base, and which he shouldn't have been able to figure it out, but he did. Very smart guy. So we had to figure out how we're going to get him away from what he was doing. And so we started slowly convincing him, or not really convincing him, but just giving him the idea that this might be just UFOs, extraterrestrials. And he ran with that. And I know I had a lot of criticism about that. I fed him all this disinformation and I made him go crazy, but Paul thought a lot of this up on his own. I didn't have to. It wasn't very difficult for me to convince him what he was seeing. He just told me it's UFOs. Years later, I became friends with him. Years later, after I got out, he still owned it. I tried to explain to him that what he saw wasn't, but he would never believe me. He eventually went crazy and he died some years later. But some of what he was seeing was he took pictures of strange-looking lights and orbs. And in fact, I sat, and not just me, Jerry Miller, who was he had been a Project Blue Book investigator some years before, and he was he was in the intelligence staff at Kirtland, not with OSI, but with another agency. Him and I sat in a room, probably not any bigger than this, with really tall ceilings. And Paul was sitting, and we just had dinner, and we came in, and we had some coffee, and the lights were down. In fact, none of the ceiling lights were on. We had just some table lights on. And we were talking. It was 8 or 9 o'clock at night, in a winter night. And he says, he was explaining to us what he was seeing. And all of a sudden, we see this orb up in the corner of his room. And I looked at it, and I watched it. Nobody else saw it at first. And I kind of elbowed. There was 3 of us there. It was me, Jerry, and another agent by the name of Steve Atzett. And I hit, and Jerry looked up and he said, and we didn't say anything to Paul. And it started flying around the room, and then, of course, Paul saw it. He said, well, there it is. We looked around like, what the heck is this thing, you know? And so we watched it for maybe 20 seconds, and it disappeared. And went right back to that spot. Well, Jerry thought that it was created by Paul. And Jerry confronted him. He said, Paul, what did you just do? Paul said, no, I didn't do anything. He said, can I look and can I check things out? Yeah, go ahead. Well, Jerry's a scientist too. He looked all over, went up to his room, couldn't find anything that could have generated something like this. It was a ball of light with like little sparklers around it. And he says, that's the aliens. That's their reconnaissance. That's how they keep an eye on me. And a few weeks later, we were in his house without him being there. Now, a lot of people are saying we broke in, we surreptitious entry. He gave me the key. Paul gave me the key, told me to keep my eye on, if you ever want to go in there, here's the key. So we didn't get any search warrants or anything, but we went in there and we saw a real small orb, not the same size we saw earlier, real small orb that burned a hole through his ceiling. I mean, through his wall, from one room to another. And when we came back a couple of weeks later, we told him about it, and that burn hole was still there. Oh. So at first, we thought Paul was just hallucinating, you know. But the more I looked into this, there was something to this. He was actually photographing extraterrestrials. Not so much of a creature, but of their reconnaissance or their small orbs that they used to conduct experiments on humans. And he had, I don't remember how many, but he had a whole group of pictures that I told him, the next time you take any pictures with he had a Canon 35 millimeter, one of those, well, at that time it was new. He had a Canon 35 millimeter, and I told him, I said, if you ever take any pictures of UFOs, don't develop them, let us do it. And he said, okay. So he calls me one day, he says, got a whole roll of 32 or 30, whatever many's in one of those rolls of photographs of these UFOs that I took over at the base. So I went out, picked them up, took them over to our secure photo lab, gave them to our secure developer and said, hey, develop these. And I stayed there, watched, wait. I said I wanted some 3x5s and 8x10s and whatever you can. So an hour later, however long it took, he comes out with them. He says, what the hell are these things? And they're oval-shaped crafts flying above planes that were landing at. Now, Kirtland Air Force Base shares a field with Albuquerque International Airport. So planes coming in, these things would fly right over top of them and then veer off.
Were these more like orbs, or were they structured?
No, they were structured. They were structured. And I can't remember how many photographs there were, but they were structured crafts. And we had them blown up. I mean, the photo guys could do a lot. And we had them blown up, I mean, whereby these crafts were about as big as the Corona crafts. And they were exactly, oh, absolutely. Details, struts, the bottom of it. Well, there was one particular one, and these were color photographs, showing a blue trail coming out of the bottom of the craft, which is probably the energy device. And we sent them all up to headquarters, and I don't know whatever happened to them.
Were they seamless?
They were seamless, yeah. Seamless, yeah.
And did whatever happened to these photos, or were there any videos, or was it all photographs?
No, all photographs. He never did any videos.
Okay.
No. Now, he didn't do a video, but we had a video that was brought to us at the base of this guy who lived in Placitas, north of Albuquerque, lived in the mountains. He was retired Air Force. I believe he was a pilot. And he had a video camera setting up, and he was watching animals. He lived in a remote area, and deer and elk would come up to his back area, and he was pretty much filming that. He was a wildlife amateur photographer. But one night, he heard a noise, went out, and this craft hovering right over his backyard, and he took a video of that. It was about 28 seconds or something like that before the craft took off. And that is the only video of a legitimate video. We took the video, the camera, and everything, because you always want to analyze all this stuff together. And we sent up to headquarters. They sent him a check back to pay for that camera, because they were going to give him that camera back. And they were going to give him, and he wanted copies of that, but he never got that back. They classified it. Whatever happened to the stuff we sent up, I don't know.
Where did you send it to specifically?
OSI headquarters.
Office of Special
Yeah.
Investigation.
Yeah, Air Force
Where
Office
is-
of Special
where is that?
Investigation. At that time, it was at Bowling Air Force Base, headquarters at Bowling. We sent it to headquarters of IVOE, which is the counterintelligence location, and then they would send it over to NSA. And the only reason I know that was years later, after I retired, I was I joined a pretty closely knit group of former and retired intelligence officers, and we get together every year. I haven't attended every single year, but out of 25 years, I probably attended 20 of these reunions or get-togethers. And normally, they're after or before the UFO convention at Laughlin. Well, it used to be at Laughlin, now it's in Arizona. And we'd sit down and talk. We just sit down and talk about, in a secure, kind of a semi-secure place, and talk about what we know. And that's why I learned a lot from them, because they were briefed in programs I wasn't briefed into. And one of the intelligence officers was from NSA. And when I first met him in probably 94, 95, and I had never met him before, I didn't know him before, he said, I always wanted to meet you because you and I were on the same case together. I said, what case? He said,
I don't even know what to say to all this shit, because it's just like, to believe him or not to believe him. It's
Paul Benowitz. I said, what do you mean, Paul Benowitz? He says, yeah, we interviewed him too. So they were investigating, and we were investigating, and we didn't know they were investigating. One particular night at Paul Benowitz's house, it was rainy night, winter, kind of fall. I was there, and Jerry Miller was there, and Paul was showing us different things. And Paul came to me and he said, you see that house across the street? The front of this house. I said, yeah. He said, you see those lights in that upstairs window? I said, yeah. He said, they're not supposed to be there. I said, what do you mean? He said, the house is vacant. I said, I said, I wonder who's over there. So I got a gun, and so I go down and I snoop around, and I see the two vehicles parked hidden in the back yard. One's actually in a yard. So I get the license numbers off these vehicles. And the next, I didn't want to go in. I figured, well, maybe they're buying a house or whatever. So the next day, I ran the plates, and they come back to a rental company out of Hertz, I think it was, out of Denver, and they were rented on a government credit card. So I thought, okay, now go ahead. I don't know, a week or 2 weeks later, we were there at the same time, and we see these lights. Well, these lights are, you can tell, camera lights, the old red lights coming out, seeing that there's cameras pointed over here. I said, I'm going to get them this time. So I call Albuquerque police contacts I had, tell them what I had, and tell them somebody come over there. And they come over, and we confront these two guys. And they had to tell us that they were special agents, and they rented this place. That's about all they said. So I knew.
Did they say what agency?
No, they didn't. And APD was, I was off base. I didn't have much jurisdiction there, so Albuquerque Police Department had to, I was just relying on them. They ID'd them. It was confirmed that they rented the place. So I was left at that. But this agent I met years later told me, he said, we investigated that one. We investigated the abduction up at Springer. I didn't know this. So NSA was intimately involved in this stuff too.
Do you know any other agencies or any of these other gentlemen you've met with?
DIA, of course, CIA. We have quite a few members of our group from the CIA. They weren't. They didn't do any field work because the CIA couldn't do that, but they were relying on a lot of information that we were feeding them, and they were doing analytical studies of what they had, but the FBI, of course, was involved in it. Well, they found a box, a cylinder, I should say, not a box, a cylinder on the Ebencraft that had been analyzed at various locations, and Sandia had it. And in 1984, President Reagan came to Sandia and was going to be specifically briefed on this. And I happened to be part of the security detail. And I was in the room when they was explaining this to him, and this cylinder and they had a electron microscope view of it, or however they figured out how to X-ray it or whatever they did to it. But they had cutouts of it and a presentation on an overhead projector, and they were explaining to the president what they thought these things did, and it was a multi-purpose avionics device that was also a navigation device for them.
Fuck.
And so that's really the only technology that I've ever learned or heard that San Diego was involved with.
Do you know any further extent to which President Reagan was being read into these various projects or information?
I was told one of our members of our former intelligence group was a Secret Service agent. He was a Secret Service agent for some years, and then he went over to the CIA. And he told us that one of the most fascinating things about Reagan was he believed, and he was briefed. He didn't see it or know it, but he knew of others, Secret Service agents, that told him that when he took office on January, whenever it was, 20th or whenever, of 81, he immediately asked for a briefing. Before the Iran, we still had hostages in Iran. Before the Iranian, he even addressed that issue, he says, I want to be briefed on everything we have on UFOs. He sat in the Oval Office and said that. And they said, yes, Mr. President, we'll do that. So he knew, he was never there when he was briefed, but he knew of it. I went to Washington to get a award for something I did, which is still somewhat classified, and I met the president. I never talked to him about this subject, but he knew something because he said to me, I know you work on some very interesting things out there. And that's all he said. We didn't go, I didn't have a whole lot of time. We were in the Oval Office for, maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it was. And he gave me something, and he gave me presidential cufflinks. But and I knew I knew what he was talking about. He never actually said anything, but I knew that he knew, which was nice because you recognize, you think, wow, what you're doing, what I'm doing out there is being briefed all the way up. There was a UFO cover-up live that was aired in October of 1988. I don't remember what channel, but and a year before, in August of '87, myself, Dr. Kit Green, Dr. Hal Puthoff, Ernie Keller-Strauss, Carl Dale, several of us, and Robert Collins went to Dayton, Ohio, and had a meeting in a room. And this producer who produced the UFO cover-up live was there, and he wanted to interview us all. And most of them said no. I said, well, what do you want to talk about? He said, I want to talk about this UFO thing. I said, I won't do it on camera. Well, we sat down in a room, in a hotel room to do the interview. He interviewed me. He gave me a list of questions first, and he said, "Read the questions. Do you have any problems with any of those questions?" I said, "No, I don't have any problems with it." Well, yeah, actually there were a few that I said I can't talk about this and this and this. I think it's 3 or 4. Anyways, he interviews me. There was one cameraman and him, and he said he would turn the camera off and say, Can you actually elaborate more, or what he was trying to do was tell me what to say. And I told him right away, I'm not going to play your games. I'm going to tell you what I know and what I did. I'm not going to tell you about anything else. I'm not going to tell you anything classified. I'm going to tell you about the Kirtland incident and about what I saw, but that's it. So he put me on back, and maybe another 5 minutes. Wasn't much more than that. And he started that again. I said, you know what? I'm terminating this. And I walked out of the room. Now, on the UFO Live, they have somebody that they claim to be me. And the beginning of it, the first probably 30 seconds, is in fact me, blocked out. But everything else was dubbed in. Somebody else was talking for me. And that really upset me. And of course, then they say, well, you were live. You were there live. Impossible. I was going to the State Police Academy in Santa Fe during that time period. I started at State Police Academy in 1st of August and graduate till December. On that particular night, I was isolated inside that dormitory and not even able to watch the let alone being on it. So that was all a hoax. That was all
This has just
made
been
up.
clearing up some
And,
bullshit or something.
Who dubbed for me? I think it was Robert Collins, to tell you the truth. But and almost positive that was him. And by the way, Robert Collins and I are not friends at all. Absolutely not friends. He published a book in 2006 with my name on it that I had absolutely no input into that book.
Good to know.
So people who say, well, you wrote a book. I didn't write any book. I gave him information to put in the book. About 20% of what I gave him went into the book, and the rest of it never went into the book. And that book right now, I'll swear to it that there's probably about 20% that is factual in that book. And there's probably 40 or 50% that's speculation. And then there's the rest of it is absolutely lies. They're hoaxes. I spent a number of assignments to Nevada. And I know that they were reverse engineering. I was never actually briefed on it. But, common sense can tell me that this craft over here isn't something we made, or it's based on something they designed. The only exception to that is the Cash Landrum incident in 1980. I know for a fact, I was involved in that. I know for a fact that craft was piloted by Air Force pilots. It was based on a extraterrestrial craft that we'd had, and it was reverse engineered, but the propulsion system failed, as a malfunction in some manner, spurring out radioactivity, and I know that for a fact. But that's the only reverse engineering. Other than the cylinder that at Sandia, I understand that was reverse engineered into the 117. I was at the Nevada Test Site, which is now the Nevada National Security Site, what you call Area 51, which was at that time Det 3 Test Center. It's Area 51, but it was at that when I was out there in the 80s. It was called Det 3 Test Center out of Edwards. There was a detachment of test personnel from Edwards Air Force Base assigned to Area 51, and Area 51 is just a plot on the map based on the Nevada Test Site, all the different areas within that. So, but everybody calls it Groom Lake Complex. Actually, there's two different locations out there. There's the test site, there's the Det 3 site, and then there's Groom Lake. That's two different sites. People are sometimes confusing it, thinking it's the same. And then Papoose is an auxiliary site that actually has the underground entrance.
Have you been in that?
Absolutely, I've been through the whole site. Yep, I spent 9 months out there as a counterintelligence officer. We had a facility at the Area 51 that would blind. We would shoot a laser up and blind the Soviet satellites as they came over, blind their cameras so they couldn't photograph anything. And not only did we blind the Russians, we would blind anybody else's satellites that would come over. So it's very difficult to get actually photographs during that time period of Area 51. And now I don't know that they have that out there anymore. I've been out for a long time.
What year was that you were?
81 and 85.
And when
Those are
you were
two
out at
different
that
types.
facility, did you see any man-made, sort of based on reverse engineered objects
Yeah.
that were used, what might be called electromagnetogravitics or anti-grav type systems?
I saw one, what I would prefer, nobody actually told me it was an anti-gravity craft, but the way it was operating, and it could lift up by itself. We watched it. It had to be. I don't know what else. I'm not a technical guy, but I could look at it, and just common sense tells me this thing was anti-gravity. Now, but I think that craft was an actually alien craft. I don't think that was a reverse engineered. There's two different complexes out there. There's one that I believe Lazar was talking about with the alien crafts, and then there's an entirely different area for the reverse engineering.
Whoa.
They're not together at all. They're not in the same hangar. They're not next to each other. They're in different locations. The underground crafts, the underground facility housed the extraterrestrial crafts. The above ground facilities and the far end of the complex housed the reverse engineered aircraft. They had the bodies of all sorts of different types of crafts that they were manufacturing or testing that he put together and tried to fly it. Had a lot of crashes out there. So a lot of these things didn't work, but they had those. But I know I read a book where it says everything was in one hangar and that's not true. They were all separated, and they had different people. It was compartmented. They had people over here dealing with those extraterrestrial crafts, and they had people over there that were dealing with the reverse engineering craft. Now, the material, the information came through a third party, bunch of people, scientists here, who would feed it out to there. Those people didn't have access to them, and they didn't have access to the other one.
Did you ever see any of the ET craft when you were there in the underground?
Yes. I saw two. The one that defied gravity, which no one ever told me it was an ET.
Can you describe that?
It was a oval shape. It wasn't very big. It was probably 10 feet by 20 feet. It wasn't very big. It had, I think, legs or landing gear that we had put on it because they didn't fit the structure of that craft. And it had these portholes that were almost fluid-like. You look at it and it looked like you're looking through water, if you know what I'm talking about. And I never saw the inside of it, but I only saw the outside. And I saw another craft, a huge craft, that was in the Papoose complex. When you first go down into it, the first bay area on the right-hand side, huge craft, probably 100 foot by 100 foot. I was never told what that was, but it looks like an older craft that had crashed, and because there was damage on it. But the skin of it and everything looked strange. Didn't look like something we would have built.
Right.
Those are the only ones that I could.
And
relate
were
to.
there any either living or deceased ETs?
I never saw any. I saw supposedly a closed circuit camera. I was sitting in a building, and there was a closed circuit camera filming one in another facility, but I never actually saw one face to face. The contractors, E-Systems, Johnson Systems, Sandia, Livermore, Los Alamos, Tektronix was out there, GE, Motorola. Motorola had a huge facility where they were trying to check on their communications, how their communications worked.
How the ET?
Yeah, ET communications worked. Those were the ones I can remember. Yeah, EG&G ran the place, and Gene Laskowski was the security chief for EG&G, and he always calls himself the security officer but he wasn't the security officer. I always let him say that, but he wasn't really a security officer, but he was their security officer, and he was briefed into a lot of things. He knew a lot, as Paul McGovern. I don't know if you know Paul McGovern, but Paul McGovern was the site security chief for Area 51 from 77 to 91. He was there the whole time. He's retired now. Lives in Washington, Maryland, Landover, Maryland. I think I gave you his name to somebody. I gave their names to try to contact him. He might talk.
Yeah, when,
In 1980, I was at Wright Pat for a briefing on something entirely different. But while I was there, I asked to be briefed on something that was related to this, and I was taken over to a facility, an underground facility. You walk down steps, a ramp, and a huge underground facility. Although I didn't actually see it, I was told later, not by Collins, but by another person, Ernie Keller Strauss, that they had alien bodies down there. Now, I never saw them when I was there, and I was only there once at Wright Pat, down in that facility. So what Collins talked about, those tunnel complexes, they probably are real. I mean, they probably had tunnels down there, and I was told that. In fact, I read something in a classified manual once a few years later about them.
right past
Yeah, right
the
Pat.
underground.
Yeah, underground facility. Yeah, you go in Papoose, you go down the ramp. It's a circular, no, actually like a horseshoe, and there's branches off each one of those. There's certain areas. It goes all the way around to the main cantonment area of Area 51, and it comes out on the southeast corner of the southwest corner of Area 51 near Hangar 7. It comes out of there, but along the way there's elevators, and there's compartmented shafts that if you don't have the right badge, you can't, and they're all exchange badge systems, that you can't get into some of these. You only get into certain ones. Like I was saying before, if you're working on the alien craft, you're not going to be able to you're not going to be working on the other craft. So
The man-made.
Yeah, the man-made crafts. Yeah.
Have you been exposed, or did you come across in your career and your network the false INW or the deceptive indication and warnings projects related to this?
Yes.
And what did you find out about those?
That's pretty hush. I don't think I should talk about that. Yeah.
I mean, that's what when I briefed the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, that was the main subject.
That is, that's very sensitive. Yeah, it's very sensitive. Yeah,
Extremely.
yeah. So we'll just pass that question on.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
The Soviets were just as curious about the phenomena as we were, and that one of the essential we call them essential elements of information, which you ask a spy. Some things that the government says you have to ask these spies to get this information. One of the first things that the Soviets will, if I'm trying to recruit you, and you're in the Air Force or the military, is what does the government know about UFOs? I want to know. We want to know. KGB wants to know, and that's something that's fascinating. And so when we recruit a Russian, we ask them the same thing, and then they tell us, oh yeah, the KGB knows this, and so that's something that was fascinating to me, that the Russians were just as interested as we were, and probably just as involved. I was involved with the Germans on the subject when I was stationed in Germany. The BND, the German equivalent to the CIA, the BND, Bundesnachrichtendienst is what they call it in German. But only one particular incident that happened in around a nuclear weapons storage area where something entered it, cut a fence, got in, didn't actually get into a bunker. That's something that we briefed, but we could never connect it, although there was a sighting of a UFO over it, but we could never connect them. That was the only interface I had with with Germans. Well, I think the most convincing case that I've ever even been involved with has never ever been made public, and that was the incident up in Utah some years ago. There was a guy that lived in a remote trailer just outside Dugway Proving Grounds, and He was a photographer. He'd worked as he was in the Army as a photographer, and he retired from the Army, and he went to work for, no, I'm sorry, he didn't retire from the Army. He just got out of the Army, and he went and worked for Dugway Proving Grounds as a photographer. He was never married. He was an orphan. He lived by himself in this single wide, probably 14-foot by 80-foot trailer. He had built some sheds and stuff around it. OSI at Hill Air Force Base called me and said, we got this guy that lives in this remote area up by Dugway that sent us all these photographs of UFOs. He said, and we don't really have anybody up here that's, and this is like 84, latter part of 84 or first part of 85. We don't have anybody up here that could really, talk to this guy intelligently. Could you come up here? Because they didn't have a 9Q. A 9Q is a OSI designation for somebody that investigated these things. So I went up there. I talked to my boss. He said, yeah, go up there, whatever you want to do. I went up there, flew up. We went out and visited this guy. This guy was not a very intelligent person. He had a lot of common sense, but not well educated. He only went to 8th or 9th grade, but there wasn't anything he didn't know about cameras or taking pictures. He learned this all on his own. I mean, the Army taught him, but then for years at Dugway, he took pictures of things out there. He showed us a book of all these photographs and these creatures. And we were saying, where did you get these things from? He said, they land out here. He said, they land out here? I said, well, when did he said, oh, they left a long time ago, but they come here and landed for years. I said, so I asked him to tell me the story. And he tells me that in 68, the latter part of 68, he came home from work. It was a fall day. He goes in, makes his meal, and all of a sudden he hears some noises. He has a cat that ran around crazy. And he goes outside and he sees this craft landing in his backyard. And he went in and got his camera. Of course, being a photographer, went out and took pictures. And creatures came out. He took pictures of the creatures. And he has these pictures there.
What did they look like?
They looked exactly like the Ebens. Mm-hmm. They were Ebens. I mean, they never talked to him. But he said, well, they didn't talk to me with words, but they talked to me in my head. He said, I could understand then that they were having problems understanding me. And he gave him all these gifts that he had. And at first I thought this was a setup. Honest to God, when I got there, I thought this is too real to be it. It can't be real. And I tell the guy, the OSI agent from Hill, I said, is this a setup or something? Or this guy had movie props? Or this isn't real. He said, why are you saying that? I said, because it looks too real to be real. He said, no. He said, I don't know. He said, we've never been out here. So he showed us everything. And the contact lasted from about the 60s, late 60s, until about 75, 76. And then they told him they were leaving. And they gave him these gifts. And they're star-shaped. There's some of them that were like bronze statues and little models of things. And he said, they gave me, these are gifts they gave to me. I said, one of the questions I had was, why are you telling us now? After all these years, 7 years or 8 years, whatever it was, why are you telling us now? He says, I'm dying. This guy was a chain smoker. I bet you he smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day. In an interview, he probably went through a carton. And he said, I'm dying. He said, I'm not going to live for another six months, but I got to do something with all this stuff. He said, and I figured it, you might as well have it. The Air Force might as well have it. So we sent the flag up, and then we got truckloads of people coming down, NSA, CIA, to review all this stuff. We actually they contracted a company to come down with a moving van to move all this stuff, package it in a unique manner, because they don't know if this stuff is setting off a signal or. And I never thought of that until one of the technical people up in Santa Fe, or up the headquarters, said, And Washington said, you know what? These things might be bugged or something, or radioactive, or so they took it all up to headquarters, and I don't know.
How many objects were there?
Oh gosh, there were probably 24. I don't know exactly, probably at least 24. Some of them were just objects that they were made of, I don't know what material, but you couldn't really figure out what they were. I mean, obviously meant something to the Ebens, and because they gave them, you know, to him, and thinking that it was something meaningful. And so they packaged all that stuff up and took it to headquarters, and I never heard anything about it. And I've never read or seen anything on the internet about this case. Now, I think George Knapp has. I think somebody mentioned it to George Knapp some years ago. Art Bell sent me a letter once, some time ago. Not a letter, I'm sorry, email. And he asked me about the Utah case. And I'm not sure which, I sent him back saying, which Utah case? And he never responded to me. So,
Do you know if this gentleman's name?
His first name was James, and he had a very funny last name. It's like a Polish name, Zadowski or Zadorski or something like that. He was a Polish origin. I knew that, and but he was originally from. He grew up in a orphanage in Northern California, but I guess his mother and father came to the West from they immigrated Poland to the United States, and then they went west to California, and I don't know, somehow they died, and he was 3 or 4 years old, and I don't remember how old he was.
Do you recall what these objects look like? I mean, just a few of them, the ones
Some of them were shaped like a heart, a bronze heart, with some calligraphy inside of it, and some of them were just statues of almost like ceramic statues of something, maybe a god or something. You couldn't really explain. They were small. Some of them were this big, and some of them were real big. And there was another one he had was a wreath, almost like a wreath, and there were different symbols around this wreath. And in the back of it, they had these appendages that came out, maybe to put it on a stand or something. I could never figure it out, I'm sure. And I only saw them one time that he showed them all to us, and then when we came back to package everything up, to send them up. So they're up in CIA or DIA or someplace. Be interesting to, I'm sure they've been
and the photographs
analyzed.
as well.
Yeah.
Were the photographs daytime of the craft? Or
Oh yeah, all of them were daytime that I can remember, and they were as clear as you can ever. And he took pictures inside the craft. These are pictures inside the craft.
What did those show?
Where they showed instrument panels, showed a screen, a huge screen with maybe the universe or star charts or navigational charts or something like that. And they told him he had this chart, and this is we were leaving the first time when he said, "Oh, I forgot to show you this," and he went into a chest he had, and his house was a horribly maintained house, and he finds this. It's hard to explain it. It's like a laminated paper that has these lines through it. And he unfolded it. And he said, "Oh, this is where they came from." Well, there's no references on it. So you know, where is this? He didn't know. He said, "But this is the chart they gave me." And that's the only thing that we actually took back that day with us. And then we, of course, came back later and get everything. And I don't know what they ever figured out. They don't ever tell us much after that.
It goes up.
Yeah, it goes up and never comes down.
Did you ever hear where, I mean, there's all the UFO lore, which I discount, but where some of these ET species were from, what star systems?
The only one that I know for a fact that I read later was Rata reticuli. I don't know. Zeta reticuli. Yeah, Zeta reticuli.
That there was a species from.
Yeah.
And that
was
from an
Ebens.
official source.
Yeah, that was from official source. Now, there's a lot of people within our retirement group, a lot of speculation on different star systems and close star systems and things. But officially, that's the only one I know.
Had you heard of any the projects that deal with ET simulations? What I'm referring to here is there have been some contact events. The one you're referring to, I have sources, was actually not ET, but was, if you will, a staged event by military or special operations to look ET because this woman had seen something classified. Have you heard of those sort of operations?
Yeah. But
Well, this is
I'm not
back to
sure
the
if-
false INW.
yeah, right. We did do that, yes. OSI did that. There was a special group out of the 7602nd Air Intel Wing at Fort Belvoir that came out and did that. They had these people that had maybe some sort of defects, anatomical defects that were brought in to fool people and thinking they're aliens. Yeah. I can't give you any specifics because the program is still classified, and they probably still doing it. I wouldn't doubt it. They were still doing it.
Yes, I've interviewed a number of men in those special
Yeah.
operations programs.
Yeah, there was a special, a highly classified operation that occurred in Tacoma, Washington, in I'm saying maybe 86 or 87. That was exactly. It was at the a naval base in Seattle. I think it was Whidbey Island Naval Air Station. I think, but anyways, with Naval Air Station up there where. These civilians got onto the base and got into something, and they saw something they weren't supposed to see, and this group came out and went into their home and scared the dickens out of them and
Staged an alien event.
exactly. It's very sensitive. Very sensitive. Yeah, that and some of the other things that we did in recruiting people. One of the things that you want to do to protect a base is recruit people outside the base to report into the base. So when I was at Kirtland, we had, I didn't do this, but we had a whole group of we call them swindlers, who could recruit anybody. And they went out and recruited primarily press people, because they're the ones that are going to know first. So every news agency, every television, radio station in the Albuquerque,
Right.
Santa Fe area had our snitches in there. So we knew, and we.
That's enough for me. It's already 12 o'clock.